Pinterest is already worth more than $10 billion, and a lot of that value is locked up in investors waiting patiently for the company to capitalize on its service and start to make money. Now, Pinterest is ramping up its commerce engine, and we're starting to see what Pinterest's ability to nail sales is actually beginning to look like. We sat down with Pinterest Tim Kendall to learn a little bit more about the company's plans.
I mean, basically, since Ben and Evan started the service 5 years ago, by far the number one requested feature was people telling us, I discovered this awesome product in Pinterest. I wish I could just tap it and buy it. And about a year ago, we started working on the idea of enabling that for users. And so we wanted to combine the notion of what happens in a physical retail environment, which is that you go to a physical retailer sometimes because you know what you're looking for. And even if you find what you're looking for, you often find things that you weren't looking for. So we wanted to combine the serendipity of a physical retail environment with the convenience of online commerce.
And so there was a phrase someone told me once that was, if it looks really, really simple, it was excruciatingly difficult to build. So I don't know if that's true for Buyable pins or anything like that.
I think that's right. I mean, I think it is tempting to draw a buy button on a product and say that you've enabled commerce. In our case, we really feel like we've built the full end-to-end capability within the product. We now offer 2.5 million products through Pinterest that are now buyable. And so the complexity to build that up is non-trivial.
And so why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background? You've been at Pinterest for a while now.
Yeah, about 3.5 years. I started working in this area at Facebook. So I was on the product side and helped build Facebook's original ad products and spent about 5 years there. And then helped Tumblr actually design their ad system. And then about 3.5 years ago, I met Ben and have been here ever since.
What were you guys talking about when you first met?
We were talking about what was possible, what Pinterest was, and what was possible. I mean, Ben told this amazing narrative about how he wanted to do for discovery what Google did for search, which was just such a compelling vision in my view. I had this experience as a kid with the catalog, The Sharper Image. I don't know if you're familiar with it. When I was a kid,
way back.
It is way back. When I was a kid, there was no internet. Like, my window into the outside world was an encyclopedia set and TV, I suppose. But I remember the Sharper Image catalog coming and it just being this amazing, almost religious experience when it came in my mailbox, because it was full of these amazing products and amazing ideas. So those were the sorts of things that Ben and I talked about, was the fact that there were these experiences like the Sharper Image experience that I described that happen a lot in the offline world, but no one's really solved it online. No one's really solved it on the phone.
And so you recently took on a new role. How is that going so far?
It's good. A couple months ago, we launched a bunch of new offerings. So we've been in market with a general ad offering for about a year. And
that's promoted pins, right?
Yeah, we got a lot of great promoted pins. We got a lot of great feedback from advertisers. And one of the things we heard and learned from watching how advertisers were using the product and users were interacting with promoted pins was that every stage of the classic marketing funnel was happening on Pinterest. So people were learning about things for the first time, which is really associated with awareness. People were developing an intention to eventually buy something, which is intent. No, that was actually just, potentially the way we often see intent generated is people will see something like a pair of shoes and they'll save it by repinning it. And that turns out to be a very good signal of generating intent for someone. And then more towards the bottom of the funnel is action. And we saw lots of people converting. And so what we announced a couple months ago were 3 offerings that correspond to those 3 parts of the funnel. So we have an awareness offering, an intent offering, and an action offering. And I'd say specifically in the awareness offering, one of the things that we're very proud of is something called cinematic pins, which we like to say is the first mobile adaptive ad unit. And when I say mobile adaptive, I mean that when you scroll through your Pinterest feed, the ad comes into view and it moves at the same rate that you're scrolling. And then when you stop, it stops moving. And then when you scroll again, it starts moving again. And it's this very cool experience for users because they're in control of the motion. And it works well for advertisers because we've given them a chance to use motion to tell their story.
And that tends to be higher engagement for advertisers.
Very high engagement.
Okay.
And users love it. If you look at the comments against these cinematic pins, they're overwhelmingly positive.
So how do promoted pins sort of fit into this idea that you guys have going forward about commerce on Pinterest, and how people are sort of behaving as you get closer to the bottom of the funnel, and giving signals that they want to buy things or actually buying things on Pinterest?
Yeah, buyable pins are really the first time that we believe we've enabled that full thing to happen end to end, where you discover a product, you might save it, and then we allow you to buy it. So it starts from discovering it and then taking action on it. And when we think about promoted pins, we basically just want to enable marketers to do that with their customers on Pinterest in the most relevant possible way.
And so when you guys think about commerce going forward, what are some of the things that you guys are keeping in mind, or some of the things that are at the top of your mind as you think about how people behave on Pinterest, how people buy things on Pinterest, things like that?
Yeah, so we think what we have today is a great start, in that for someone who's actually looking for a product, we, through our guided search offering, allow you to browse and compare different products, go into different subcategories, zero into those, telescope back out, go into, if you wanted to look at black shoes, you could look at black shoes, then you could look at brown shoes, and then transact and buy the pair of brown shoes.
Is there anything that kind of keeps you up at night, things that you're working on, or things that are sort of, really, bugging you that you really want to fix, you really want to solve?
I mean, I'd say the big thing that I'm focused on, because my role is partner facing, is just making sure that as partners are enabling us to take in their products or take in their content, that we have as much information about those objects that they're handing us as possible. Because if we have a lot of information about those objects, we can build amazing experiences, amazing handcrafted catalogs for the end user.
It's like sharper image.
Yeah, like the sharper image experience.
And where does this sort of part of Pinterest kind of fit into the culture of the company, that this sort of fits into that sort of engineering, product, and design archetype?
The partners function?
Yeah.
It's central. I mean, the interesting thing about Pinterest is that 2/3 of the content that gets repinned is from businesses. So everything, that content that comes from partners, it's fundamental to the service. If that went away, we wouldn't have a service. So,
or it'd be much smaller.
It'd be much smaller. Yeah. So it's a very symbiotic relationship in terms of how users experience the product and partners experience the product. And so I would say culturally, the partners team is integral to all the work that gets done that's consumer facing.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.